Hello, welcome to the Bible study series on the spiritual world. And in our previous session, we were talking about how it was very important to receive the completion of a download, and emphasized that it is possible that we receive the completion of the download in parts. We know in part and we prophesy in part, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians. And it's line upon line, precept upon precept until the whole thing is completed. And so this was the illustration I used, that when you receive something from the Spirit, right, it can be in this little part. Now remember, it can be broken out into several parts, and all the parts make a whole. And so sometimes you might have 5 dreams in one night, and all the dreams are related because they each show a single part. And it's very important that you do not interpret the dream as individual. You must interpret the dream as a 5-part dream with one message. Or you might receive a vision in parts. Yes, I've seen it where they receive a vision in parts. It's just like, for example, you could be taken up into the Spirit, and then you're having a dialogue with God or something, and then you're seeing some things, and then suddenly you have to be called back, and something happened in your body, and you're pulled back into your body. And then you resolve whatever that thing is, that maybe someone who wanted to talk to you, meet with you, and you finish all those things. It might take a few hours, or it might even take the whole day, and then the next day you spend time with God. Voila! You are at the same place at the same time, as if you're continuing the same vision. And from the spiritual world, it looks like you were uninterrupted. You just pick off from where it started, where you ended the other day. But for you, nearly 24 hours have passed since you came back. But in the vision, it was still continuing, as if you just gone for a few seconds. It's interesting in that dimension that you could receive everything in parts. So understanding that you have completed receiving a message is an important part of interpreting the interaction of the spiritual world into our life. So here you see, if you receive in tiny little bits, at this level, I don't think you could interpret. Because you haven't received it, completed receiving it, and it was a foolish attempt of trying to look at a person who is painting a painting. Let's say it takes 100 hours for the person to finish a painting, and then you go and disturb the person after 3 hours. How can you see what the painting is? Of course not. You have to wait till they paint 100 hours and the person complete it. Then you sit down and you can imagine and try to interpret what the painter was trying to convey. We need to receive at this level. You cannot interpret at this level. Possible. You begin to see some shapes and form, and then at this level, it's so clear cut. The reception is received, and it's easier to interpret. When we receive something from the Lord, it can be an enigma. Like I say, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's a little puzzle, it's a little allegory, it's a little parable, and a little enigma that you have to decode. 5% of the time, depending on your walk with God. I mean, even Moses will continue to receive some enigma and some prophecies. Remember that Moses prophesied to all the 12 tribes of Israel. You study his prophecy, inside it is a little puzzle, little prophetic puzzle waiting to be opened up. And so Moses still can prophesy as a prophet. At other times, God will speak to him clearly, plainly, like God says, I speak to Moses plainly. And then doesn't need much interpretation. You need to just catch hold of an understanding of what God is trying to communicate to you in your spirit and in your soul, and then obey God, apply that into our lives. All that we receive, all that we interact in the spiritual world is always through our spirit man. always. Our spirit man, we are tripartite in nature. We were created with spirit, soul, and body. In the Old Testament, when God created Adam in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, repeats the story, it tells us how God breathed into Adam, that is the spirit side, and Adam became a living soul. And his body was just a shell by which his spirit and soul live. And so remember, your body is just a shell in which your spirit and soul live. Of course, I hope none of you are thinking of a little snail growing around with a shell, and a slimy little slug of a snail is living inside that shell. But it is true. It is true that our bodies are just temples, places to live for our spirit and soul. We are truly spirit and soul. That's our true reality. With the spirit, we relate to the spirit world. With the soul, we relate to the soul world. With the body, we relate to the natural world. And so all interactions of the spirit will come in the spirit, and then it has to be transmitted to the soul for us to comprehend in our soul consciousness, because in this life your soul functions with your body, and then it will take time for you to apply in a natural realm. And there is these 4 dimensions. You must, when you receive in the spirit, it will be in spirit language. You got to interpret it into with your learned or acquired language, so that you could have some understanding, and then only you can apply. And when we receive something in the spirit, it's like you must receive it in completion. Do not try to interpret until it's completed. And once it's completed, then you know you can pray for the interpretation. And here's where we talk about the interpretation, which we talk right now. There need to be interpretation followed by understanding. See, interpretation involves the soul, spirit and soul. Then when understanding arises, which again may take time, you can apply it into the natural world. We were talking about Daniel, how Daniel was seeing this, one of his first visions in chapter 7. And after he saw the vision in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 15. Daniel is 12 chapters long. The first half is historical record. The second half is all visions and dreams. And so the second half, which began to record all his visions and dreams, start from chapter 7. In Daniel chapter 7, by verse 15, he had received the completion of all the vision. He saw the 4 living creatures, he saw the throne of God, he saw the 10 horns, and how the 10 horns tree was ejected, and the one little one grew big. And so he saw all those things. He still needs interpretation. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 15, it says, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body. So he knew there was something in the spirit. In his spirit, he was feeling this extreme grief and sadness, like something hasn't completed yet. And the visions of my head troubled me. So his soul was pondering, and Daniel was reacting to his download. Says in verse 16, I came near to one of those who stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. He had the interpretation. And the angel explained all the meaning of the dream vision that he had. Yes, your guardian angel can be involved in helping you understand what God has for you. In the book of Job, chapter 33, it talks about God speaking once, twice, when He gives us a dream to warn us not to walk in the way of destruction or the road to hell, but He warns us through dreams to walk in the right path, to walk in righteousness, to walk in holiness before the Lord. Usually when you fall asleep, your guardian angel, who never leave you at all, will be downloading into your life. Sometimes you're taken to a place in the spiritual world, there is a place, I can call it like a dreamscape, but the dreamscape would just mean that it's just dream. No, but it's more than that. It is a place where in general human beings go to in the spiritual world. It is just like the spiritual world as it exists in the lower realm is like a transit point when a human being dies and they are not evil enough to be dragged into hell, nor are they trapped in the physical world because they did not know that they really died, and so they remain like human spirits or ghosts, and the angels still waiting to bring them to the spiritual world realm. But because of their free choice and their stubbornness in the way they have died, especially people who suddenly died and they did not know they were going to die, and those who are very, very extremely low in a spiritual development, when their spirit has so come out from the body, they didn't know they have died. And so they think they're still alive, and their consciousness keeps on trying to do the same thing, the routine that they do in the natural world. And this is sometimes perceived by some people as ghosts or haunting. They see the previous inhabitant haunting a place, and this is where it occurs. And some haunting of a place, or some quote-unquote ghosts that people see, are actually demons or fallen spirits that try to, or that have been, what's the word there, like a bad demon, not good enough, like a familiar spirit to a particular family. So when all the family members die or something happens tragically, all die off, and the familiar spirit got no next of kin to jump into, they might hang around a place and act like the human themselves, or because the human themselves were behaving like the familiar spirit anyway by which they were possessed. And so that's one cause of the haunting and hauntings that take place in old houses, in a place, or when people suddenly die, like in an accident. Sometimes the human spirit are not progressive enough to go to the place of transition point. Neither are they evil to be dragged down to hell and thrown into Hades. And so they think they're still alive and they hang around there. And so of such, that is why sometimes people see things like ghosts or spirit or former people who used to be alive hanging around a place. It can be demons or familiar spirits, which is still the demonic realm. It can be the humans themselves who never progress and go on. Or, of course, it could be just a figment of someone's imagination and someone's fear. It might not actually not be there. But for where it is true, the guardian angel of a human being would constantly be trying to tell them to progress on into the spiritual world and the spiritual dimension. I had a few experiences in which I go to a place and encounter some, we can call that, humans who are not evil enough to go down to hell, but they are progressive enough that they among the Romans 2 category. And so usually I try to give them some understanding knowledge that they're actually dead and they didn't know they're dead. And what does it feel to be a spirit that is dead and yet think that you're alive? For them, it is, their consciousness is like a dream. You know how in a dream you do things, and you're not aware of your hunger, and you're not aware of time passing. So for them, 50 years might pass by and they think it's just a few days. So it's like a day state, and poor human spirits of the Romans 2 category for this. Sometimes God has to help them, their angels, and then finally they reach the place of the spiritual world called the transit point. At the transit point, finally they are sorted out by elders who are there, and human elders, not the 24 elders, people in charge who are there, and into various areas, various schools and all that. Then there's quite an organized thing for people to be assigned into which section of spiritual world and what training you need, etc. And of course, those who are in the Lord, those who know God, who has progressed, they might just go straight into the dimension of the third heaven. So a lot of interesting things are taking place in the spirit world. I know some of you, when you look at the series on the spirit world, you're thinking I'm going to tell you stories of the spirit world, but I will put them in this series, just like I'm doing now. I'm talking about what happened about haunted houses and all this in the spiritual world, and explain it from the biblical side what actually it is. But there's no point in telling you a story of my experiences and not teaching you how to relate to the spirit world and what the true reality is like, which is why I'm teaching this series. So there is a place where when a human being who hasn't died, and they would go to a place where they receive downloads from their angels, and when they wake up from the dream, they might not remember the conversation, but they will remember pictures and dream form, or they might go into a dream state and they have certain dream with that message that is there, and they don't remember the conversation. But as you progress in the spirit, and when you dream, you're aware that you're talking to your guardian angel, and you travel with your guardian angel to different places. That so far is my experience. So speaking about that realm where it is, and that I'm talking about the average progressive human being whose spirit is connected to God in a tiny little way because of their conscience, and they're still like Romans, minimum they have to be Romans 2 category, and then at the maximum, of course, they can be very progressive believers in the Lord who have advanced in the things of God. But otherwise, the minimum requirement is that they are Romans 2 category and they're living according to their conscience. Others cannot even reach that plane. And some of their spirits are trapped, like little like the spirits are in paralysis and don't dare to come out of their body. That's why some totally have some they're just wandering about on the earth and never reach that point. And so there are different dimensions of things that take place according to the individuals that are there. But that is my explanation for why sometimes a person feels, when you're about to go to sleep, you feel something pressing on you. There is a natural explanation that people explain, even in the natural. Now remember, sometimes some things have a natural explanation. We don't have to talk about it in a spirit. It's a simple natural explanation. And sometimes you have a sense of falling that you have. That can be due to when you're about to fall asleep, your body temperature is being lowered, and you're relaxing, and so all the blood pressure, everything is just getting lowered, and you sense that lowering as a falling sensation. So it has nothing to do with spiritual thing. But there are times when demons try to stop your spirit and so from going into the spirit world, or what the non-Christians or New Age people call the astral realm. And so the demons try to do that. And you know it's a demon, especially when you feel like something pressing on you, and you could hardly talk, very hard for words to come out. And you're struggling, and you're in that dream state consciousness, semi-conscious, and you're struggling, and until you can say something like Jesus or say something, then you suddenly, the thing goes away. It can be a real demon. I've seen real demons do that. And here's a question. Why are these demons playing these silly games? I mean, if they can kill you, they will kill you, right? And drag you to hell. if you did not know the Lord, and because this is happening to Christians and to non-Christians as a whole, and generally almost every child as they grow into teenage and to adulthood experience it at least once or twice in their life. They might have forgotten it, but they experience that. The question is, why do these entities try to press on you? And it's strange. One time, because I had grown and I became more spirit conscious, and that's in the early days after I first came out from the seminary and started the Alleluia Christian Missions in Penang, where we traveled to various places as fivefold and preach and teach. I remember we had a rented house and stayed in a rented house, and that experience came. I felt something came and tried to sit on top of me, and then, but because I was grown and matured in the Lord, I reacted differently. The first thing I remember was I grabbed it with my hands, or what I thought were my hands, because I was a semi-state consciousness. So when I move, was it my dream hands moving, or spirit hands, or was it my physical hands? I had no idea. But it seems to be both for me, and I sort of grabbed the thing that was trying to sit on top of me, and I felt contact made. And it felt like touching a piece of wood. You know, when you hold a human being, it's very soft. Felt like a piece of wood, like holding wood. And that was very strange. And then as I say, in Jesus' name, the thing disappeared. And you could make false theology from your experience, and you might think that all demons, their reality, their spirit body is like wood, not soft. That is not true, because in that same house, in the Alleluia Christian Mission house in Penang that we had, at that time we were in what was the road there? Island Glades, the other side, and on the other side, and so we had a few people come and stay. They were part of the training, and they were staying in the house. So one of them is a big sized guy, and he was sleeping, and one day he felt that coming, and then he did the same. He grabbed, and then he said, after he got up, he told me, it felt like a fluffy cotton ball. So there you are. You can have a soft demons, you can hard demons, can all kinds of, whether it be medium rare or well cooked, I don't know. But anyway, have a laugh at that. But the question we ask is please don't form a theology of the spirit body of demon, because there's not enough scriptures to form a good theology. But just sharing experiences. But here's the thing. Why do demons want to sit on top of a person? I know why. Because normally, and usually when your dream state about to sleep, normally when your dream state about to sleep, your spirit actually rises to go to that place in the spirit where it's a good place where you and your guardian angel can have a conversation and a dialogue. I've seen that place. It's not exactly paradise. It seems to be, if you want to relate it geographically, it would look like an outskirt area of a park in the first heaven. That's some place where it's like. And if you are there right now, if I go there and visit, and I go and see that ram, you can see that in the ram, because the whole world, half is bright, half is light anyway, half is day, half is night, and you can see in that place, I've been to many places in the spirit world, but in that particular place, or park I call it, because it's quite like a very nice serene place, a lovely place with trees, flowers and gardens and all that. You can see angels meeting with their charge, or they are the spirit and soul beings of humans who haven't died yet, and they're there talking, looking through the park, and it's a very relaxing place in a dream. And for the people who are dreaming, it might be like a dreamscape kind of thing, where they are having an enjoyable dream in their life, and in their dream they are having these things. And some of them, when they go there, they're taken and they're shown different things, perhaps of the future, and as they're shown different things or different images, they retain it and they wake up as in their dreams. Wake up from a dream, remember those images. That's why sometimes they go to different places, they seem to be there. So there you go, that's a place like that. What we're talking about is how when you actually go to sleep, some of the downloads are not actually downloads coming in. Some of the downloads are received during your waking time. That it has been downloaded into you, things God tried to speak to you. And then in the dream, besides some fresh download, sometimes no fresh download, your guardian angel is trying to communicate to you the meaning of those things. And because it's so hard to communicate to from your spirit to your soul, that sometimes they give you more clues, they give you more imagery or allegories, and it's reinforced into you as a second message. God speaks a second time, repeated, so that you can remember the message of what God is trying to speak to you. So sometimes that takes place, and you need to quantify the message that you're receiving from the Lord. An interesting phenomena is this. Why is that necessary? I have seen sometimes a person's spirit and their soul, and they can be standing outside their body, and it's just as an encounter, and their body could be sleeping. So their spirit and their soul looks exactly like each other in a physical, but their soul and their spirit behave differently. The soul still would act more closer to what they are in the natural, and the spirit is very progressing a lot, especially those born again, progressing a lot to a certain extent. And sometimes their spirit talk to me and tell me, can you please tell my soul all these things I'm trying to tell them? I have told them some things of future, tell them some things of what to do in their life, and my soul is not listening. Can you please, when I get up, tell my soul? So I would tell them, I said, no, it's not permitted by God. I can only pray for you. I can pray and do energy impartation and blessing to your life. I can pray for renewal to take place in your soul. But your spirit, together with your angels, must figure out a way to communicate to your soul. And that's why renewal of the mind and renewal of the soul in the mind, intellect, the will is important. And the soul has a will, the soul has emotions, the soul has intellect, and as long as those things are renewed, closer and facing God, it's easy to receive. But the soul can be opposed to the spirit. Some people so opposed to the spirit, everything the spirit tries to speak to them is not getting through, because they desire carnal things, and they are walking not in God's will but against God's will, or even or even what I call perpendicular to God's will, which is still a wrong direction. Or they could be just emotionally invested in something in their past, so they cannot sense love, joy, peace from the future and from God that will help them in their lives. Or they have a wrong belief system. Intellectually, wrong doctrines have formed in their life, and thus they are not able to receive, because what they're receiving is opposing and diametrically opposed to their belief system. So there are many reasons why the soul is blocked. It is important to understand how to allow the spirit and soul to how the spirit communicates with the soul. In the waking moments before you sleep, open yourself. Just tell God, Lord, please teach me. Please avail to me all the help I need. Please guide me. Please open me up And surrender is important, and the Lordship of Christ is important. As you surrender to God in your consciousness before you sleep, then when you sleep, it flows. And of course, when you surrender to God, there are many ways of surrender. Daniel would seek and fast if you don't know something. So you can add fasting, or you can add all-night prayer. Because all-night prayer is when you can pray in tongues a long time with a group of people, so it doesn't feel so lonely, and also you're more energized to pray as a group than as an individual. For me, it's different. I'm more energized as an individual. Groups sometimes got to sense things that are coming from different places, which sometimes is a distraction for me when I seek God. I can understand why Jesus, when he prayed, he went a little bit further so he can concentrate and pray on some area. Interpretation is important, and we have considered that today. So I pray that God strengthen you and bless you, that you can learn how to interpret what you have received from the Lord in the Spirit. God bless you.